the real estate guru's strategy regarding investing in real estate, of course, doesn't work in Venezuela. And today we explain why.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Of course, if you like to consume content and do research regarding real estate and real estate investing, you most likely have watched these particular characters, personalities like Robert Kiyosaki from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Also, people like Grant Cardone, the 10X guy. He's a real estate developer and salesman, that kind of stuff. Also, you have younger guys like Graham Stephan, that is a very entertaining and very informative guy on YouTube, that he's a millionaire, selling real estate and investing in real estate and that kind of stuff. Also, you have Mick Gary, that also have great pieces of content. You also have people like Dave Ramsey, that is more of a frugal guy, but more slowly but steady. You can get rich investing in real estate, that kind of stuff. So those guys are very first entertaining. They have great marketing strategies, and they are very successful indeed. I'm not saying otherwise. And actually, I like all of them. I think they provide great information, great value. Also, they have their bias, selling their particular businesses and products and services and so on, and nothing wrong against that. But today, I'm going to explain why their strategies don't work in Venezuela. The first one is very basic. It's regarding debt and leverage. Most of these guys, I believe all of them, are U.S. citizens and American citizens. And the situation that you have in the United States is very different that you have in the rest of the world regarding financing, debt, credit, and so on. In the United States, you have interest rates that are artificially low because of the Fed, the Federal Reserve, and that kind of thing. I'm not going to get into that rabbit hole. Anyways, you have very cheap credit, and for an average American, of course, you need to fulfill certain criteria, but it's fairly easy on the grand scheme of things in order to get credit and financing in the United States, especially for real estate properties. So the basic strategy, and I love this strategy, by the way, if you have the access to the credit, is that you can get a mortgage, preferably a fixed rate mortgage and on a very low interest rate, in order to purchase a real estate property with a very low down payment, usually 10%, 15%, 20% at tops. And afterwards, you cash flow the property. Of course, you rent the property or you Airbnb the property or a warehouse, whatever may be the case. So basically, with the monthly payments of the rent of this particular property, and minus the expenses that you have for this particular property, and this money, the net income of this money, most of them goes in order to pay the monthly mortgage against the property. So you create equity. So you have your accounting 101, you have your asset, that is the property, of course. You have the liability, that is the amount of the credit, the mortgage. Let's say the property costs $100,000, and the mortgage, the outstanding debt on the property is $80,000. And let's say you pay $20,000 in advance. That was the upfront payment. Very good. And of course, you have to pay interest on that debt. So let's say you pay $1,000 per month. This is just an example. You pay $1,000 per month. After expenses and kind of stuff, it's $900. And afterwards, you have to pay like $700 per month in order to pay the mortgage. And from this $700, $500 goes against building the equity on this particular property. So really paying the debt that you have, and the other $200 are for the interest on the debt of this particular property. So meanwhile, you are doing this slow but steady. You are increasing your equity, your personal equity, And also you have a decent cash flow that if you multiply this by 6, 7, 8, 10, even hundreds of properties, of course, you become rich, slow but steady in the United States, investing in real estate. Well, that kind of system doesn't work in Venezuela and actually doesn't work in many places all over the world. In Europe, on a lesser degree, I believe they have a 40-year mortgage with a very low interest rate. Well, that's another thing. The issue is that in most parts in the world, getting a mortgage is very, very difficult. And usually you have to give upfront a significant amount of the price of the property, usually like 50% at least, something of that nature. And actually many people are not even able to do so. They have to save for many years in order to purchase a property. That's kind of what happens all over the world. That's one thing. But the second thing is that in the United States, the levels of credit and debt are very, very extreme. Several times the US GDP on public debt, government debt, household debt, real estate debt, corporative debt. United States, everything is there. Now, the issue is that every time something strange happens with the financial system of the United States, a collapse happens. And of course, in the United States right now, they are printing money using the Fed and quantitative easing in order to keep the ball. But that's for another thing. The main issue is that you have a lot of financial assets and instruments, and you have like the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the other one, I don't remember, I put it here. And you have a lot of financing and mortgage-backed securities and all of a dreadful and complex financial system supporting this, let's say, quote-unquote, bubble. Now, the main issue is that in the rest of the world, in this particular case, Venezuela, we don't have those particular levels of debt and leverage. And actually, it's quite the opposite. First, if you're investing a property in Venezuela, you need the cash in order to pay the property straight up. And it's not going to be cheap. So the possibilities of using leverage are slim to none. The credit market, I'm talking the overall credit market, not the mortgage market, that is pretty much non-existent in Venezuela, is only 2% of Venezuelan GDP and actually increased 100% from last year. So last year, it was 1% of GDP, right now it's 2% of GDP. But the good thing is that since there is no a bubble, a market bubble, anything like that, because there is no leverage on the Venezuelan system, I'm talking the private system, it's not going to increase the market, the Venezuelan real estate market is not due to collapse, like, for instance, during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis of 2008, a bunch of movies about it. That thing is not going to happen in Venezuela. And also the thing is the market already imploded, but not due to the financial system or the real estate system. It was for the oil economy that explained this many times. Anyway, meanwhile, the real estate market in Venezuela can only grow up because already hit rock bottom. And many things happen, like the increase of oil revenue. That's kind of a proxy with real estate here in the countries. If the oil revenue grows for a few 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day, the real estate market is gonna increase as well. Also, GDP is growing, has grown 25% in the past 3 years after an 80% GDP collapse. So it's a long way to go yet. And also other situations, other nuances regarding the Venezuelan economy, like getting a mortgage, getting the possibility of mortgage. We are getting a lot of financing, but for other things that are not mortgage, still is a tricky issue, but that's going to be solved on the next few years. So if you combine oil revenue with GDP growth, with the mortgage market, the existing mortgage market in Venezuela, that should increase on the near future the real estate prices in the country. The second strategy is multifamily units. And this particular strategy comes mostly from Grant Cardone, but also other people in the real estate guru sphere, they are recommending. And let's explain how it works. Basically, you instead of buying just one home, one apartment, and buying just one piece of real estate, you buy a very special real estate, usually a building or a place that has a lot of units, a lot of, let's say, a big building, let's say a big house that that has like 8 units or 10 units or 4 units, many units. So you rent those particular units and you get multiple cash flows units for just one property. And it's a way in order to hedge your bets regarding real estate, because you don't are worried about feeling worried about just one tenant, because you're going to have a bunch of renters and you can work things out. So it's a more safe way in order to invest in real estate. And actually, I think it's the case. However, in Venezuela, it's not going to work. And here's why. Because unlike the United States, that you have two things. First, people are mostly renters than buyers in the United States. And the second thing, that regardless of the economic situation, the average, let's say the lower middle class people in the United States, I'm talking people that work at Starbucks, as they work as waiters or they work as gardeners, very blue collar, low income professions, they still need to pay rent. Of course, they get a roommate or something like that on the worst cases, or they share it with their spouses, something of that, but still they have to pay rent. And they have the income, because even a low salary in the United States is like $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 per year before tax. Okay. In Venezuela, it's quite the opposite. First, most people, it's not like most people are renters, because the people under 30 years old, is very difficult that they have properties unless they inherit that from their relatives. Very good. That's one thing. So usually, most cases, Venezuelans have a family member, they have a family member, someone, a grandma, so a place to crash. That's it. And the second thing is the salaries in Venezuela are very, very, very low. So it's not sustainable for an average Venezuelan to pay rent. And the other thing is, in most cases, not in all, but in most cases, they don't even need to pay rent, because they live with a family member or the house that they will receive either grandparents, something of that nature. Very good. The other thing is that the people who do rent in Venezuela, regarding the legality, this is not the legality, it's actually just a private thing, that in order for someone here in Venezuela to rent you a property, you need to fill certain criteria. You have to own your own business and pay taxes and have everything very structured, fill a certain profile that only like 2, 5, 10% of Venezuelans, tops, 10% tops, they can actually fill these certain criteria, usually business owners, entrepreneurs, very well-paid self-employees, people on that particular regard. And since these people are, let's say, the fancy people in Venezuela, they most likely won't get the lower-end properties. They usually want the mid-range properties and the high-end properties. And that costs a lot. So you need to have a nice real estate property in order to be able to serve this kind of people. And the third thing, and this is kind of my thing, doesn't have a name, but it's like invest hoping for gentrification. So basically, you are investing on a particular area, on a particular city, on a particular market that has some sort of movement around this particular market, but it's not fully developed. So you are waiting on the future that this particular area or this particular city is going to increase, it's going to become gentrified, and the value of the property is going to increase, and also the value of the monthly incomes, the rents, and that kind of stuff is going to increase as well. In Venezuela, I'm not saying that it cannot happen, but usually in Venezuela is very delimited, it's very well known which areas and which markets are the valuable ones. So if you want to truly invest in a really good property, I'm talking on a really good area, you already know what it is, not what is going to become in the future. And well, I mentioned these examples many times. Oh, these particular properties are the most valuable, are the ones that increase in price, in value a lot. very quickly, regardless of the situation, and those are the ones that you should aspire as a real estate investor instead of what might end up happening in the future for a particular area within Venezuela. And before I leave, please leave it in the comments below if you are a big fan of Kiyosaki or Grant Cardone or Graham Stephan, those kind of guys, or maybe another guy that I don't know at this moment. Please leave it on the comments below.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.